I am, yes. And,
Resign.
oh, I'm on the, sorry. It's the budget.
Budget, yeah.
Yes.
So then-
Oh, it is. Oh, okay. There you go. And yeah, fantastic.
Okay, let's call this meeting to order at 4 o'clock. We have some technical difficulties that I want to make everyone aware of. So we have to talk very loudly, and when you do speak, please state your name so that when we create minutes, we know who's talking. Anyone have any questions? So we do have a quorum. Anyone have any questions about that? Great. So let's get started. Can we adopt the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda. Conway. I move to that.
We have it on your phone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, visitor communications. We do have some visitor communications today.
If somebody's signed up here.
Yes. Jan, would you like to come up and speak? We do have some
Yeah.
technical difficulties, so we'll bring you over here so it can be recorded.
Okay,
So please state your name and that you live here in Sisters.
okay. Jan McGowan, I live at 70797 Indian Ford Road in Sisters. I'm here today for the Sisters Community Labyrinth. It is an advisory committee to Sisters Park and Recreation District. The Labyrinth is in the portal, the new park. And so our advisory committee reports to SPRD, which then has responsibility to the city for parks issues. And we met with the city and they suggested we come and talk to you. So it's a bit convoluted, but what we're here to do is to kind of ask for your support in our vision for what will happen with the Labyrinth once it does turn into a park. Spoke with Paul Bertagna and he said that they will be looking for this committee, this advisory board's recommendation. So that's how we got here. And we put together just a 2-page document that I'd like to distribute.
We already have it.
You have it? Fabulous. Okay.
We had it emailed to us. I don't know if everyone had a chance to read it.
No extra copies needed?
Yeah.
All right. Absolutely. There's some background information. The Labyrinth was established in 2013, and we do a couple of events there every year around the solstice dates. It's been a little bit under the radar, I think, as a community asset. And we think this is a great opportunity for the Labyrinth to get more visibility and more usage. So we have some ideas for how to enhance the Labyrinth. And also we have some concerns about that increased usage and what that could mean as the park is discovered and more people come to the dog park and the transportation part and all of that. So we have on the back of this a list of some features that we would like to recommend. And our understanding is that this advisory board will make recommendations to the city about features in that park. And so we're just here to advocate for that list of features. And I just wanted to present this today. And when I spoke with Scott, or we've been emailing, I thought I would stick around till your meeting's over. If there's time to discuss it further, happy to do that today or come back at a future meeting to answer questions and conversation.
Do we know how much of this we are already doing at the yeah, for the plan for the park?
There's going to be some obviously the paths that have come in. We've seen those out there, so that perimeter path is already part of the plan and being installed. The lighting. There's no fencing currently proposed for surrounding the Labyrinth. Obviously, fencing. There is fencing contemplated with the future dog park, obviously. But I think what they're talking about is taking would be fencing and going around that portion of the Labyrinth as well. And then I think some wayfinding. So those things are not things we're contemplating currently.
Just the fencing, is that really, I mean, there's signage outside the park on here and things like that. I guess I'm just trying to understand, like, I'm sure some of this we're already doing naturally because that's what you have to do.
I think signage would be something. If anybody's more familiar with what I'm offering, then feel free to chime in, but as far as the bench and the fencing, those are probably several. But I think signage, really fine signage was an element that we would look to.
I think that, the only thing I know for sure is the stump.
Yeah.
I'm joking, but yeah.
Yep.
I was glad to see you had a discussion with Paul,
We did,
and, some of these would be budget items
yes.
from the perspective of the city council. So having this list and if there are some recommendations from this group, that would be something that would be considered during the budgetary process. I think some of the things on here in my mind are probably fundraising activities as opposed to city activities. But I'd like to include some list. I'm speaking as a city councilman, not as a member of this board. And found it to be very politely asked. Sometimes we get very politely demanded.
Yeah, we agree. We are set up so that we can do some fundraising, and we'd love to work with the city to figure out what makes most sense to, retain the character and make it an asset for the city, but also continue our advisory and fundraising efforts to make it really usable and an asset.
Yeah, I mean, I just, it's not on our agenda, but could we just propose that we recommend adding split fencing to the labyrinth, or do we need to put it on the agenda for next meeting? How would that work?
Because you do have a couple of agenda items we talked about, maybe circling back to this.
Okay, so let's just make sure it's on next month's agenda and
Yeah.
we should discuss it.
And if not, then. Robust discussion.
Right, I can't imagine anyone here would be against a split rail fence suggestion to city council. You are?
I would like to see what's proposed for the other fencing, so it's in.
I don't think there's anything proposed.
Well,
The dog park.
the dog park will be fenced.
Yeah.
Oh,
And in a discussion I had with one of your other board members, there is some concern even about dogs running through the labyrinth and people wandering through the labyrinth. So the split rail fencing will solve the people issue. It's not going to necessarily solve the critter issue. So I'm kind of thinking where Nancy is to say, recommend some type of protection of the labyrinth and let the city figure out how best to do that budgetarily and in terms of aesthetically.
Cohesive design.
right,
And then who's footing the.
right. So maybe, well, let's circle back to this and we'll either, if we have time today, we can discuss it more, and if not, we'll put it on next agenda. Thank you so
Great.
much, and we love the labyrinth too.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I can use you when I'm on it.
You have to have a lesson in labyrinth. I'll just hang out here if you have time later today.
So, moving along, we have approval of minutes.
Oh,
from
I'm
this.
sorry.
Oh.
Before you go, Chair, we do have a couple people on
Oh.
Zoom. We want to see if they have desire to provide comment. How do I?
And just raise your hand if you are on Zoom and would like to provide comment today. Seeing none.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, then. Moving along, we'll approve, we need approval of minutes for two meetings for December 4th, 2024. Most of us were here. And January 15th, 2025.
So, by Connolly.
Anyone second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great. Let's jump right into the East Portal naming process, which has been fun. Thank you.
Okay, here we are again. You'll notice what I don't have here today are easels.
Yay.
Because I'm thinking that maybe we're just sliding into home. in terms of our choices. You did see the survey results from the public, and I think there's some resounding results here. But again, this is your choice of what you want to bring to council. And so we have a couple of questions for right now, and that is, how many choices do you want to bring to council? And which ones do you want to? And then I'll be assisting in writing the staff report that will go to council. And I'd like to be able to put in there some of your reasons why you have chosen. So I'm going to be taking notes more on the laptop today than scribing on an easel. So
Well, may I speak? Asa again. I would recommend we send the top 2 to council and they will get a copy of this, correct? So they will know that the public clearly favored one. Does anyone else have an idea? Okay.
My choice was the bottom of the list again, so.
the Cascade Lookout Park,
No,
just, or down here.
yeah,
I see.
Oh,
Okay. Okay, so what you just told me is that you want to take 2 to council, Sisters Gateway Park and Stage Stop Park. Okay, and do you want to have them have those recommendations in that order? Our first choice is Sisters Gateway Park, and our second choice is Stage Stop, or just have 2 recommendations? Does that matter?
well, I don't know, because I mean, to me, that would be my order. I don't know about everyone else, so.
Doug Buell, was this survey just among us, or was this?
This was the community.
The entire community?
how many results did you have?
200.
223 responses. Yeah. And
With-
141 of those chose Sisters Gateway Park, 63%.
That's pretty solid.
So ironically, if you go back 4 months, we eliminated Gateway because it sounded like a shopping center. And
Mhm.
here it is, back at the top.
Mhm. So
So that-
why Gateway Park? Why Sisters Gateway Park? Can you give me some bullet points maybe, or?
Well, we did decide, I mean, we are the gateway to the east side of the Cascades. It's the north side of town. It houses the transportation center. I mean, these are all the reasons I remember. Does anyone else? It has sisters, the word in it, which we went back and forth on, but mainly most everyone wanted the word in there to identify mainly the transportation hub, but also that it's in Sisters.
Laura speaking. I think an additional reason was that that phrase gateway also exists on the signage that's there. There's that placard, that info plaque about the significance of that location, and it refers to it as a gateway.
Mhm.
Connolly is opposed to traveling east. It's also the gateway traveling west over the Sandy Am and McKenzie.
Skip the time.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're speaking to the transportation function too, like for folks who are coming from out of town, even if they're not going over the Cascades or somewhere else, it's their kind of gateway into the town itself, sort of on the periphery there, but still within walking distance. So sort of echoes that function of that park too.
Okay, and then how about Stage Stop Park? What are the elements there that are important for council to know?
It's a nod to the Western theme. Rodeo quotes. Folk festival.
This is Doug. I would say probably economically for a lot of the shops in town and the businesses, you know, like a Stage Stop, you know, this is kind of a place to stop, get something to eat. um, Shop.
ASA again, and it also lends to stop as in the transportation center as well.
And never named it Sisters Stop and Shop.
The,
Like,
the one negative I heard, came from someone, I think, with the folk festival, that stage stop was like drama, you know, or exit stage left. I don't know if you want to include that or not. Was the only comment I had along that line.
Is there, to be brought up language, I know that the gateway language on the sign, is there language about the whole like panel route or stage or something?
There
There might be.
They don't know that for.
It is part of the history though of sort of
Yeah.
what that represents, so.
I believe on those diagrams that are up there by the shelter, there's some reference to that. And look at it here, it does. They're staying.
Okay,
And I would say, speaking as a council member, I think it's important for the council to know the ratio. So that we don't go off on a tangent and pick number 3, although you're not going to forward that. And flying in light of the face of what major public opinion might be, it's important to have that information. We don't always follow them, I can guarantee you that. But it's always nice to know because we're going to start getting hate mail. So, so I think that including those ratios are important.
definitely.
Definitely.
Okay.
Anyone else? Do you need more information?
I think I can put it together with this. I'll feel like it's been said. Yeah, good. All right, congratulations, guys.
This is not on the agenda for the next council.
It is.
It is, okay.
Mhm.
Good one, I've read the agenda.
So we have one more presentation, the Northwest Park Master Plan update.
Yeah, and I'd like to welcome to the table here, Matt Martin. He's the principal planner for the city and he's the project manager for the city on this project. And he's gonna give you a little update on how we got to where we are now and a little foreshadowing of what's to come.
Thank you, Scott. Good afternoon, everyone. Matthew Martin, Principal Planner here at City of Sisters. Some new faces, seeing in spots, and some old familiar friends and acquaintances. But again, yeah, we're kicking off the process of establishing Sisters' next park facility here in the city, known as Northwest Park. Are you guys familiar? Have you discussed the location or the project in the past? Okay, so
This is Brian.
no, I'm not.
I've gone through the minutes of the last few meetings trying to get up to speed, but it's hard to know what's been discussed.
Sure.
So
So yeah, dive into some of the details. So this Northwest Park is located at the roundabout on the west side of town, at Barkley Drive and Highway 20. On the east side, it's an extension of the Sisters Woodlands project and master plan. Through the master planning process, the city obtained about 2.7 acres of property with the intent of establishing a park at that location. And so we're moving forward with this process and developing a master plan for the entirety of the facility. So we're not moving forward with, specific design or implementation, but this is rather getting that concept together and getting them the public's opinion and input on the formal process. So what we did, put out an RFP for proposal to efforts on firms to do the public outreach and the design elements of the project. And we ultimately interviewed 4 consultants. Interview team was Doug Buell, Jennifer Holland with the Parks District, Jackson Dumanche, Public Works Project Coordinator, and myself. And through that process, one firm, NV5, rose to the top as being the most capable, qualified, and desirable to lead us on this master planning project. I think think it was the capabilities of the firm. For one, it's a relatively large firm. They have a presence throughout the Pacific Northwest and regionally and some international projects. But in particular, it was that ability of as a larger firm to do most of their work in-house. And so there wasn't a need to consult with other subcontractors. And then experience. They've done over 50 projects, parks and recreation projects in the state of Oregon. So with that experience, we felt that they could translate here to Sisters. And then another prominent aspect of their proposal that rose to the top for us was their public outreach efforts and campaign. They're contracting with local folks, Stephen Ames and Ruth Williamson, which may be names that are familiar to those that participated in the Sisters Country visioning process. They were the firm that conducted the public outreach process through that the visioning efforts and developed the actual plan and action plan. So they have local ties as well as local experience here in Sisters Country, knowing that the lay of the land, so to speak, the community, and we're very well aware of how engaged the community is and how to engage with the community. And so we're kicking off this project tomorrow with our first kickoff meeting with the consultants and the internal city project team to discuss kind of the overview of the project, and answer some questions and some coordination, and then actually visit the site with their project team. I think we've all been to the site previously, but there's a chance to get there together and begin to kind of point out major aspects of the project or property and things to be aware of, issues to address, opportunities to incorporate into the plan. And thinking about what to incorporate into the plan. Northwest Park was considered in the recent update to the Parks Master Plan as a potential or a future facility. And part of that, identification was an interest in providing a year-round recreational facility and targeting or highlighting the potential for an ice skating rink as part of that facility. So they're very well aware of that. And so that's going to be a prominent aspect of the consideration. And thinking about year-round, wintertime ice rink, and then a flex space or flex opportunity during the summertime, what that means. That's, I guess, to be determined, but an opportunity to use the facility in the park on a year-round basis. Now, we may find that it may be a bit ambitious to accommodate an ice rink or a larger facility. So if we need to right size that for the location, I only say that because we're targeting that, but looking to alternatives if it's not if feasibility may be challenged for the site, or looking to if the community has other ideas that emerge from the public outreach, you could certainly
Donations.
incorporate that. So this is master planning, and then we look to funding as to how to get it implemented. So then we have our kickoff beginning tomorrow, and then following that, we'll be initiating the public outreach campaign. And how they structured it initially was to have 2 group interviews with key stakeholders. That's with representatives of the Parks Board. So we'll be reaching out to identify who is interested in and appropriate for participating in that. Maybe we could survey the group here today, or we could do that later. And then adjacent property owners, business community, other citizen groups to identify through that group setting, again, what the community's interests are, questions to be answered, and to incorporate into the design or the further evaluation. Along with that, they plan on 2 community-wide events, one an open house, and then secondly, a workshop. So different formats to share the information that they've gathered and ideas to consider, and just different ways to engage with the community. The schedule of those hasn't been established yet. The full scope of the plan or of the project is beginning this month, ending in February of next year. That's where we'll have a master plan in place to present to city council for final consideration. And then, but along the way, we'll be making periodic checkups with check-ins with the Parks Board and throughout the summer. But there's an intended and planned presentation specifically to the board in August of this summer. So that's where you'll have your chance to really get the full presentation and opportunity to speak as a board. I'll pause there. I do want to pass it to Doug if you have any comments regarding the firm or your experience having participated already.
Well, I think you did an excellent job of summarizing. Went through with 4 companies, and the company that we selected, NV3, right? NV5.
NV5.
NV5, okay. They had combined with W&H Pacific. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that company, but I really liked their depth. They really had a lot of, like Matt said, in-house folks to do the work, not subbing it out. Their community input and the ability to pull input, I really appreciated. It was very simple compared to the other 3 companies that we listened to. They had a very simple process of extracting community input, which was impressive. They actually, one differentiator between all of the companies, these guys really address the traffic issues because this is near that roundabout, which is a very busy place. So they addressed that they would be looking at pedestrians walking over to the grocery store or across the street to Fire Market. And they had some local ties. So I think they were very enthusiastic, and I think we got a good team to work on this for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and recognizing again the location. Yeah, highlighting that they were very aware of the prominent location, and with this park site as well as the efforts going on at East Portal or whatever the decided upon name is, there's real energy and opportunities to kind of create this as a greater gateway to the community. I know we've stepped away from that name, but energy at that intersection and as you come into town. So I think will be a nice tie-in on either side of the highway and link this portion of the community and perhaps extend, from this location into downtown. So I think it's really an exciting opportunity. I'm not sure the last time we had a new park in the community with Clemens, perhaps. Am I missing another one? Or over at Clearpine, the Village. Oh, Village Green. I think it's always been there. First Street. Yes. Excellent. Yeah. So adding to the inventory, I'm really excited to hear what the community has to say, what ideas that the consultants come forward with on the project. And I think this may be one that, having an active recreational opportunities will be perhaps a difference.
Will you be moving forward, community input from 10, 12 years ago? That this idea versus a museum or are you familiar with that? No, okay.
Not personally.
Expect to be asked that probably by some community members. And I don't know that the ice rink rated high with people over 30.
Looking at the wrong guy.
Yeah.
I'm all about that.
Yeah.
That's right. You're over 30.
I am.
That
Community action.
sounds great.
10 years ago, it might be worth looking at just so you're prepared. Yeah. It's a longhouse, convention center, ice rink.
Was there
No, the pool was not on there.
Nice. I just want to add one more thing for the benefit of this group. It goes back to the first part of the meeting. And that is that right across from the park that we were named today will be a set of flashing light beacons to cross Highway 20 as part of the work that's going on in the development that's there. There's going to be a new street punch through. And ODOT is going to install our first flashing beacon Crossing Peak and his district there. That's the first one that's going in. We had hoped for many more, but that's a start. So in terms of the importance of the park transportation aspect, the parking aspect is that this facility, when it is built, I'm not gonna say it, but when it is built, which may be many years from now, that provides an additional location for individuals parking in order to use the facility, because it is somewhat land restricted. And so that may be something that's taken into consideration during the design process, is that some of the parking can be even moved off the site to make room for more amenities. But that's, so the crossing of Highway 20 is never great, but we will have the flashing beacons. And I can tell you, living in Newport during the time, it does stop traffic on 101, which was much faster than Highway 20. So just information for the back of your mind as it's forward.
That's great. Any other questions, comments, thoughts at this point?
Yeah, this is Laura Lisa. I'm curious, what public data was used to create the list of potential amenities? I remember that there were some surveys that were done around 2021, I think. Is that what they were using? Proposal or?
Yeah, so my understanding is it comes out of that outreach that was incorporated or considered as part of the Parks Master Plan process.
Okay.
So that would have been that same timing of 2021 or thereafter.
2022 or 3, I think we did
Okay.
that.
So quite recent.
Yeah.
Correct.
I would just say from my perspective, it seems because the city is so dynamic and changing, over the course of the past decade. I wouldn't put personally too much weight on a survey that was done 10 years ago. I think it's worth considering, but
Just so you know.
yeah, but I do think, the population is quite different now than it was 10 years ago. So I would use more.
Sure. I think it was.
Okay.
There's
I think
a
that's
heads up that the idea, which may be not considered in the master plan, the Parks Master Plan or other kind of information may bubble up as an idea.
Having gone through this process when I was. You're gonna get all kinds of different ideas, some of which are very far reaching, some of which are reasonable. And what I always tell people is every one of them is important to the person who wrote it down and sent it to you. So you're gonna be looking at a lot of them. I think it's the time comes of some of these consultants.
And we'll continue, like I said, to update the Parks Board and also through cities avenues of the newsletter that we put out, social media and other efforts to spread the word of kind of events that are coming forward or ideas, updates on the progress of the project.
Creating a project webpage for this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Good resource.
yep. So I think instead of designating or identifying who may participate in the different aspects, maybe we get a more understanding of the schedule and then reach out, identify who's available, interested, and move forward there.
Excellent.
In your packet, on page 38, I believe, of the packet, there is the documents that were submitted, shows sort of a timeline of when things are going to occur over the next year. If you wish to take a look, there's a lot of stuff in the packet. It's not so easy when you're scrolling down through to go by that particular table. But there is a table of timeline that you might want to look at and consider where you might be when these sorts of things come up and your availability.
Thank you for highlighting that.
Page 14 in that packet and 38 in our giant packet.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just being on the Parks Board doesn't preclude you from participating in some of these community engagement opportunities, as long as you're representing yourself and not necessarily speaking on behalf of the board. So you're not just limited to those opportunities when it comes to this board. You have those other options.
Chair can show the whole hockey gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't do that. Just-
The skates get a little.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, with that, then I'll just note that if you have any follow-up questions or comments, ideas, I'll leave some cards over on the side table. You can find my contact info on the webpage as well, or Scott can find me too as a conduit too. Thank you all.
Yeah, no, thank you for your work and the update very much. All exciting.
And then what to name it?
Ah.
It's already made.
Oh,
Oh, shoot, yes.
Oh,
You're not a very nice person.
I guess Emmy is gonna make some.
During staff.
Over in staff members, so not.
Well, we're at staff updates.
I guess, do you want to circle back with?
Oh, you want to do that first?
It's up to you, it's at your discretion.
First discretion. Sure. Circle back about the lateral. Do we want to discuss that now and see? If
Done.
we come, sorry, it's to see if we can come with something we can send to city council, or do we need to get more information about what is actually, it doesn't sound like there's any sort of fence proposed at this point.
There was a suggestion about splitting.
Right.
areas Offered up apparently by the public works director.
Right, and I'm not, so I'll throw my 2 cents in, are we going to discuss this now? Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Great. I'll throw my 2 cents in just because I'm already speaking. If the dog park already has a fence, the idea behind the dog park having a fence is the dogs are fenced. That said, I mean, I think a split fence would show you where the labyrinth is. I don't know what else you would need beyond that.
This is Laura. So can you clarify what a split fence actually is?
Sure, it's usually it's a wooden fence that has yeah, those are right out there. Those are
Those are
split,
three properties.
yeah, split fence right there. That's exactly it.
Along the creek at the.
Perfect.
Yeah, so
Deleting a boundary, but not actually.
exactly, and it
Is used in a lot of places.
looks nice, yeah, and westerny and natural, made with natural materials. Anyway, does anyone know that's my 2 cents? I could be totally wrong if somebody wants to jump in.
Well, this is the, so did we not have a master plan for the East Portal Park?
There was, we did, to what extent it contemplated the labyrinth, I think it was mostly concerning itself with the mobility, portion. I don't know, Gary.
My memory is that the master plan addressed that the labyrinth existed and that we did not wish to disturb the labyrinth, but I think that's as far as it went. It really focused more on the amenities that were going to be new to the park and where they would go and how they would be placed within the park. That's my memory of that process.
And I remember we discussed as a committee the dog park, but I'm not sure we came up with a location, or is there a master plan, a 2D view of where everything is in this?
The dog park was shown on the master plan as a potential, I think it called proposed or potential
Yes.
dog park. I don't think it was, at that time was there. But the location that I saw would have been between the entrance and the labyrinth in that area. That was one location I saw for it. There are other places that it will be. Pardon?
What street is that?
East Cascade or West Cascade? Or you talking about
The
Hood?
north south.
Hood?
The north south.
North south.
It's
That's,
not Hood,
No, it's not.
The north side?
the Unnamed Street.
yeah, I don't.
North or south?
I know the
Parkview
name.
South.
No.
So this
Oh,
is more
go
of
back.
is this more of a design build and the contractors are just kind of winging it, where they're gonna put things?
No.
No, it's all,
It's-
I mean, they're already, you've been over there, or they're-
But we didn't.
I've been all around it, but I haven't dove in. I didn't
Yeah.
want to get inside where they're doing the construction.
So-
That's Hood.
Oh, it is.
It just continues
Yeah.
northward.
Please speak up.
Sure. There is a plan, this is Asa again, there is a plan, we did see the overall blueprint showing where the labyrinth, and then we actually, at one point, at the parks, we pushed for the dog park to be added to that plan, which we successfully did. And they worked really hard to avoid destroying the labyrinth. So but beyond that, that was it. We want to leave the labyrinth. That was basically it. But there is an actual blueprint somewhere.
There, this is Nancy Conley speaking. There is the master plan, but it didn't dive into colors of sign and the colors of the parking strips and additional information that might be set up. And because it's a temporary dog park, still not a formal dog park, it's still temporary, correct?
Mhm.
Or trial dog
I
park?
think that's what they're calling.
Yeah, we didn't get into, is it a brown 6-foot fence? What color gates? That was beyond our scope. And that's why I would suggest not picking a split rail or a 4-foot chain link or whatever, because the design knowledge I don't have. I mean, I would assume that the designer would come up with a cohesive look that ties in whatever signage is going to be there for buses coming through a dump station down the line, e-charging, directional signs, etc. So, and that's
From a city council perspective, what I would want to see is a recommendation for fencing of some type around the labyrinth to protect it. And then after that, because that's a budgetary issue.
Right.
And we would depend then on Public Works and Paul to provide some input as to how that might look and where that might go. Usually we don't try to delve into split rail over chain link over board and bat or whatever. I mean, it's that's really what we depend on our professionals for. And so I think a recommendation from this group to the council would be appropriate to say, these are some of the things we would like to see. And it's been requested by this group. But I think beyond that, you're probably deeper in the weeds than you need to be. Then we would want you to be. I mean, I want it to look nice. I'm kind of you, but at the same point in time, there's somewhere you could go and hang some art on it and some things like that. Maybe split rail isn't the best thing for hanging art on. I don't know. So those are all considerations that I think get worked on down the road. I just think
recommending a fence to protect it. I guess the only other question I would ask, I mean, I've been in a labyrinth and so on, but would you want it visible, or would just putting bushes around it suffice as a fence and as a private seed barrier, something like that? I'm just throwing that out there because I guess then it asks the question, what are they looking for? Are they looking for some privacy or just looking to protect it from stray dogs?
This is Jan, and so I guess what we're really looking for is just, do you have any adverse reaction to any of the things on this list as far as, the vision for what might be enhancements to the labyrinth? But as far as the specific fence, we're not wed to anything. There are some boulders, a few boulders around it currently. There's some on one side particularly, there's some shrubbery, native shrubs that are over there. It's more about setting it up so that people, I guess another component of the path that you're going to put in is that the path would actually lead to the opening of the labyrinth, and that whatever is keeping people from going into it, that we proactively take people to the entrance and not heading across. That's the big thing. But as far as privacy, no, we want to keep the rural natural look, but there's nothing else that in particular at this point. And we'd love to work with the designer and provide input in the city about it at that point in the process.
And I would say my concern about a hedge type of kind of thinking about the sort of English hedgerow sort of an approach, is that then it's a wonderful place to kind of tuck down behind the brush and spend the night. It might cause more damage than we're trying to prevent.
Okay, well, I'll stop and I'll just say, I think as a Parks Board, we can represent some sort of fence to City Council to
Protect the labyrinth and leave it up to them.
And I did hear part of the ask was, do we have any objections, you folks, to the other things that are in here as desired features? Is there anything in there that raises red flags for you? So, because at some point they'll be presenting to the city council, whomever, some of the things they'd like to see done. And if you don't want to see the list back a second time, and you're welcome to, perhaps just kind of either blessing it or blessing parts of it would be an appropriate move at this point in time for future discussion.
This is Laura Lees again. I think because the labyrinth is an existing structure and the city is planning this expansion that will therefore bring in a lot more people, it is entirely reasonable to plan for some sort of barrier around the labyrinth to protect it. When I look at this list, I think a path, I think signage, that all is reasonable for us to recommend. The one thing that stands out to me is perhaps the picnic table, and I question it only because I would assume that there are already plans for some picnic tables somewhere in that park area. That would be a question. And if we put a picnic table in, one, is it necessary? Is there a need for it? And two, are there then going to be garbage bins available nearby because of food waste that will be linked to the picnic table? So that would be my only question.
And this is Nancy Conley. I have concerns about a locked display case to post information about upcoming events. Who maintains it? What's it made of? Again, all the issues, relying on volunteers to update things in a timely fashion is very difficult. That hits a lot of weather use, and that would be a concern that it wouldn't be an effective place to display the information. It might be better incorporated in the master design again, or whatever the city has planned, because I know there are other agencies who are looking at displaying information.
I thought it's sort of a wish list ask, not expecting to get everything. I'll say that as a city councilor, and then I did, as a parks person, have concern. My experience with locked display cases in parks, they get a lot of moisture, especially in the wintertime. The box, the temperature differentiation variable between the box when the sun hits it, the outside area tends to get condensation on the inside of the box, which makes it very difficult sometimes to put display items in there, especially if you print them underneath it.
Makes sense.
All right. So, in that case, should we propose all these things minus, assuming city council is what?
I think that's what I was asking. I think, asking that, some kind of fencing goes in and say there's a list of other asks and that
Just leave the fencing.
I think council this group had no real concerns about the other asks. You could say except for, if you wish, the display case and the picnic table, leaving that up to, the city to decide. Because I think that a lot of these I looked at, some of them are fundraising issues for this group. Some of them are things the city would say, yeah, if you can fundraise, you can have it. Some of the things we probably would do as part of the process.
Right.
Kind of what you said, very, very well stated. So I don't think we have to get too detailed. I think just to say that
We want something to protect it.
And the most important thing, dollar wise, is probably some type of fencing, because that is probably a budget issue. And the budget's being put together as we speak.
Right. Great.
But some people will be looking at it.
We'll recommend the fence or whatever.
Some of the
something
feedback I
protected.
got from Public Works was a concern about the kind of the rustic picnic bench. That'd be kind of like a custom design that we don't typically do. So that maybe if that's something that you want to do, maybe that's something you fundraise, because that could be a custom job. It could be kind of expensive, and maintaining it for the city. I think we like to have our kind of standard tables that we use.
We definitely anticipate raising funds for that. But,
Yeah.
I guess the question about, will there be picnic tables elsewhere?
Good question.
Because
Something.
maybe that's what a piece of work maybe would be there. There's others nearby.
I
don't know that for
I
sure.
don't
I'll
know
have to get
from the
back.
plans. I can't recall from plans.
I don't recall.
I've seen it now summertime, but I don't think that I was that far. It
would make a lot of sense.
Seems like a reasonable.
Yeah.
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 But any amenity in the city that you folks give us advice on, when this facility is more or less completed, there are a couple more phases coming along, but they're going to primarily be around the concept of parking, I think. Then there's opportunity there to look to say, gee, we want to add some amenities for the community. And which might be picnic tables, it might be, I don't know, any number of things. I don't think we're going to see a play structure in there in any time in the near future or anything like that. But I think that those are things that probably down the road decisions once the facility gets built out. Because they're all things that can be done once the facility is built. Adding picnic tables doesn't require a master plan.
This is, it seems to me that we would be, I would recommend that we put this at a different agenda at another time with some kind of a 2D dimensional master plan that we can actually look at and talk about that makes sense, because it doesn't sound like anybody really knows where things are. I mean,
I think we do know where they are. I
Well-
think they're set in concrete at this point.
Actual concrete.
do you really?
Yeah.
Does everybody feel that way?
Well, I think that
Literally, there's concrete for it.
Yeah.
So you didn't know where the picnic tables, or if there was picnic
But
tables?
those don't have to be
They don't
concrete,
be
it
in the
just has to
master
be
plan.
provided.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Brian, I think what you're talking about is other than the things that are like fixed in place, like a big turnaround for buses, things like that. We're talking about more like soft things, like movable things, like a place for picnic tables to go. How this green space will be laid out, paths, and what makes sense. Because it's one thing to talk about in abstract where fencing goes, but if you're talking about picnic tables, is it in that fence? Is it outside that fence? That's easier to see when you have a bird's eye view. So I think that's what you're talking about.
Right, exactly.
Right.
But at this point, all we're really trying to recommend is some sort of protection for the land.
But how can we do that if we don't see where it's at?
But it's not up
And-
to
and
us anyway.
Are there pathways to it? I mean,
There are
we
paths.
talked about a pathway to it.
There is a gravel path
Uh,
to it.
How do we know that that's going to be interfered with the dog park? The dogs are going to be going in.
It's, well,
Yeah.
we can send out.
I think we talked about the location of the dog park in general, but we talk about the details. We haven't outlined out the details of where the dog park's gonna go exactly, and where the entrances are gonna go exactly, and where the trash can. I think that's kind of what you're getting at. We've talked about these portal, like the hub part. And the flat rate's been down in the dog park. But nothing's, like, it kind of agrees with it. How those things work cohesively together. How big is the dog park? How far is it going to encroach into things? Things like that. We've just talked about it in general. So it would be, in my opinion, helpful to have something like that done to help plan it.
And I think the other thing I'm asking for is that this group, if you feel it's necessary to provide protection to the labyrinth, don't worry about what it's going to be, what it's going to look like, where it's going to go.
It seems to be.
Suggest that as part of this, that the labyrinth be protected, so that it's a budgetary consideration, it's placed in the budget. That's my only concern with the budget coming up, to ensure that this is something we want to do upfront or fairly early in, that the dollars are there to do it, and it doesn't have to wait until the next fiscal year.
Sure, that makes sense.
And I think part of the, says Nancy Conway, is the federal and state funds that provided the amenities that are there now and the paving have been the priority. The rest are just backfill, making it pretty for the residents. And so that's why the focus hasn't been there.
You know, we
That's
have funds
detail that you
dedicated,
want, right?
you know,
Right.
within a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Right. Makes sense.
And I also
So-
would add one more thing, and that is that once all this is in, the construction's done. And construction equipment's out. And, some thoughts get into where this temporary dog park's going to be, and I think the word is sort of an experimental temporary, see how it goes. And then it's might be a good time for this group to decide to meet over there, perhaps when the weather's good. And kind of walk it and see how the labyrinth interfaces with other open space, and how everything else kind of works, the infrastructure components that are going in. It'll give you a different feel. And right now, it's already looking very different than I remember it. And it's going to be, and they're going to be done, I think, pretty darn soon.
This is Laura. I think Doug, you're absolutely right. It's important to do your full due diligence when we're making a decision on something. And I think in this particular case, because the actual action that we have as the advisory board is just to decide whether or not to make the recommendation, but not the actual final plan. I think that we have sufficient information to make the recommendation. I personally don't think we necessarily need another meeting to discuss it, but if it was a case where we were deciding yes or no, we're putting this fence in, I absolutely agree, we should have enough. But in this case, I think we have enough to say that there should be a recommendation to city council. That's my,
Is a head not sufficient?
So it's just dissent. Any dissent.
And I don't want to dismiss what you said, Doug. I think it's very important. I believe there'll be opportunity for this to have a lot of say in some of those things. And I, yeah, like I said, the dog park's conceptual, but we've all kind of agreed that's probably what we're gonna try one. Exactly where I've seen the area sketched out, this is where it might go, but that was early on in the process.
There's a little bit more work that needs to be done to
Yeah.
tie up all the details, but you know,
And the
generally
goal,
where
of
it's
course,
gonna
is to
go.
put something in without removing trees. And also without harming the trees that we're concerned about keeping because of infection. So what's in order for that?
Great, so we would recommend, at least for budgetary reasons, that we have some sort of protection for the labyrinth at this point. And I don't know what our time frame is beyond that. If we need to look at these plans at next meeting, I'll leave that up to you to figure out what.
Which plans? Like
Just-
more specific.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could just email us the overview, so Doug has what he's asking for.
Yeah,
So, let's see.
I don't think that's been created yet, but
We looked at something. We definitely had an
you
overview
talk about for the dog park,
for the whole piece.
The master plan.
Yeah, we
the
definitely-
East Portal master plan.
no, I'm talking about that portion. We definitely saw
A rendering.
a rendering of where the dog park would go, where the labyrinth was.
But
we
like,
definitely-
like last year when we were having
Yeah.
the discussion of where we're gonna locate it, yeah,
Yes.
we got something general like that.
I think that's what he's looking for, is just an overview of what at least we're thinking.
Yeah.
At this
Yeah, I
point.
think that's as much as we have.
I,
Thank you.
I'm going to yield to Nancy. At this point, I apologize. My mistake for being on two boards at the same time,
On the same date.
on the same dates. Yes.
I don't know that we have.
We just have, staff updates. We have staff updates. We have, I don't know if we have a SPRD update. Yeah.
We sent,
She sent one, an email.
Yeah.
Okay,
Basically said, welcome to Rec Center.
and then I think Emmy wanted to share some news on the Arbor Day events, I believe.
Thanks, Scott.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Emmy.
All right.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
We have the minutes show that our fearless leader left at 4:58.
We're off.
And Amy, we're ready for you.
Okay, great. I just wanted to give a quick update about, I'm sorry, can you hear me okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Well, they're struggling with that. Will anyone else be absent in May? First Wednesday in May.
I guess the question is, do we even need to hold May?
I will not be here.
Since we kind of resolved this, there's nothing that's pressing for agenda items at this time, unless something comes up, but at this point, we talked to, when we don't have enough stuff, we talked about going on to it every other month. We've kind of hit you hard right off the bat here with four straight, so if you guys are fine with it, we might just take May off.
Perfect.
I can do that.
Okay.
City council agrees with that.
Management agrees with that.
And in the meantime, if you find that document, we all don't have to go back through old records.
Yeah, you talk about the layout for the dog.
Yeah, the layout, that would be great.
I got that noted.
You good?
She won't be able to come over the system. We're seeing if we can get her on a speaker.
Speakerphone.
Any other staff updates, Scott?
I'll just kind of fill in, waiting. We're gonna go back to with the urban growth boundary amendment process, going back to the steering committee on April 24th, where we'll present two preferred alternatives based on all the feedback we received throughout the process. They'll provide comments, go to the planning commission, the council, and depending kind of what happens with the McKenzie Meadows rezone element, what the group decides, what council directs us to do. If they want to proceed without it, then we'll come back sooner with a preferred alternative, sometime this summer. If they want to wait, then that could prolong the process, for conceivably till the end of the year or beyond. But work is proceeding along there. Well, April 24th, week before that, we'll have a packet we'll put out to the steering committee. And if you want to check the website, if you're curious to see what the preferred alternative A and B, I guess, we going forward with two, one with McKenzie Meadows and one without for the time being. Was able to get Emmy?
Emmy was having audio issues.
Okay.
Along with us in the room. So she emailed you, Scott, her comments. And she had an update on Arbor Day and potential changes to the schedule, but you'll have more detail there, Scott.
We're winging it with multiple media today. Okay. Hi, Scott. Oh, that part I don't need to read, but
Please enter into the record.
let's see.
Can you raise your voice a little bit?
Okay, the city will be hosting a community tree planting event in celebration of Arbor Day at the end of this month. Originally, Arbor Day was slated to be Friday afternoon, April 25th, but the event time needs to change in order for our public works crew to have time to install irrigation before the weekend. The big event is to do a tree planting over in the newly created, I guess, open space with the roundabout. There's you go through the roundabout, and then just to the east of that is that it's basically a slip lane for big trucks, but it looks like a big wide sidewalk, and there's a bunch of open space there. That's the area that they're going to plant a bunch of saplings, and I believe they're going to have kids. Usually they have kids there to help, parents and kiddos to help plant those. But in order to make sure that the effort is all for naught, I guess, we need to make sure we have the irrigation installed. She's asking if she would appreciate the City Parks Advisory Board's insight on if one of the two times might work better for parents, kiddos, and community members in general. The first one is Thursday, April 24th between 2 and 3:30 p.m. And then the second one is Friday, April 25th between 10 and 11:30 a.m. Do you guys have any thoughts on those times? What would be better or worse for specifically parents and kiddos, but community members in general?
Friday's early release.
This is Matt. April 25th is the service day for the school, so the kids will not be in school.
And this is
And
Laura Lees.
you'll be, pardon.
Perfect. I was gonna say that. Additionally, Fridays, I know at least the Mountain Montessori preschool is not in session, so there would be a good hand, maybe 30 preschool kids that would be eligible to go on a Friday.
Great. Yeah, sounds like a winner. Yeah.
Well, and if this is communicated to Jennifer. To the executives of my work life, but at the SPRD, they may have some opportunities, some of the older, younger kids, they have over there to participate as well, because you probably have some resistance on school day. So therefore, I've known her for 25 years. And I will read Jennifer's report when it's done.
Can I add, this is Laura again, can I add that if she would like to send a PDF of the flyer, if there's a flyer, I would be happy to put a couple up at the Montessori preschool, knowing that they don't have school on Fridays, to kind of get some preschool families over.
Yeah.
The bookstore.
And the bookstore.
In the
Yeah.
bookstore.
Yes.
And the year that they'll be printed, one year it'll be being planted where the former roadbed was.
I'm sorry.
Where the former roadbed was.
Oh,
Before the roundabout went in, the asphalt action, some of that area was actually beneath asphalt and parking gravel. So
I love that.
Great. Thanks for the input. I assume, that's the input that you were looking for. You can't answer me, but if you want to email me in the next 30 seconds.
There's a hand up and it disappeared. So I think
Okay,
that's,
is that the thumbs up?
I think that might be,
As close as you can get to.
Yeah, I
thumbs
think
It
up.
could also be a thumbs down.
we don't know.
Okay,
That,
yeah, thank you.
Scott, you recovered you when you
Yeah.
spoke earlier? I'm sorry, I'm Scott. I'm sitting next to Gary. You are good?
I'm good.
Carol?
Thank you.
All right.
SBRD, real quickly, from Jennifer, it's just Community Recreation Center is open. Come on by and check it out. I was there for the grand opening. It was quite pleasant. The preschool playground will be completed in the next 2 weeks. The project had a little bit of delay because they sent the wrong pole for the largest structure that was going in. So the pole is on its way, I'm told, and once it's here, they will be placing it. That park will be available to the public Monday through Friday, 5:30 to dusk. It won't be available during the preschool hours because the state regulations protect children. But it will be unlocked and open on evenings and weekends. So folks are young kiddos who want to play in a structure designed for really young children, that will be available. And then the larger park project, which are the pickleball courts and some other things, are currently out to bid. And they're hoping to approve a contract by the end of the month and hoping construction will start sometime in June. That's everything I have from SPRD. Now I have nothing from City Council.
Brian?
Yes.
We didn't introduce you that I'm
Oh.
aware of, so would you?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Brian Matolius. I'm happy to fill in the empty seat. I am also on the Urban Growth Boundary Steering Committee and also on the Budget Committee, but I haven't dove in just yet into that, coming soon. My wife and I, we live right over here in Saddlestone, and we've lived here for about 3 years. But my wife grew up here, and very happy to be volunteering in the community. So thank you for having me.
Great, thank you for being here.
Of course.
Brian, welcome.
Thank you.
City Council perspective, my apologies for putting on the UGB steering committee, but you did ask for it, so.
I did ask for it. And yeah, it's
If you get the kind of mail I get, you'll probably.
yeah, it's not too bad, I think. But yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for doing it.
Of course.
Do you have anything to add?
No, I don't.
Doug?
I don't.
Matthew?
Nope.
Okay, very good. So, we're not meeting next month, that's correct? So the next meeting will be in June, if needed. And I adjourn the meeting at 5:08.
And I think I'm back in time for that meeting. Depends on where it drops from the week, if not, then Jennifer will probably. Just.
I do like the idea of a field trip over to that.
I think that.
I think it's really fun.
Yeah.
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 Roads are in and the